Greetings friends, today I'm going to tell you about a terrifying 2019 thriller called Ma. Enjoy watching it. A teenage girl named Maggie moves with her mother Erica to her hometown in Ohio after Erica's husband and also Maggie's father leaves the family. At school, Maggie helps a girl in a wheelchair named Ginny, and her mother Erica has taken a job behind the bar at a casino where she is already experiencing discomfort from her employees' underlings. Maggie tried to seclude herself in the library to eat, but Haley decided to invite her to Stephanie's party, but Maggie refrained from the offer because she was going to the festival with her mother. But it turns out at home that they won't go to the festival because her mom has to work a double shift to earn them money. So Maggie texts Haley, and a few minutes later she is picked up in their party van, where Maggie meets Daryl, Andy, and Chaz. Stephanie's party is canceled because her parents are back, so the teens decide to just get drunk at the junkyard, but first they need to test Maggie for lice. She should ask a passerby to buy a drink. Some refused her, but then Sue showed up. The woman immediately began to remember her youth and still decided to help them. The guys get their drinks and Sue asks them not to tell anybody about it, and the guys joke that the old lady likes Andy. But as they were about to leave, Sue suddenly returns to give the change, but also to scare Maggie. Sue works at the vet clinic, but at work she's busy checking the guys' social media. At that time they had already arrived at the scene of their night out, but Sue called Andy's father and interrupted his intimate moment for the father to find out that his son was now filling his body with alcohol. So when it got dark, the police arrived at the guys. The man turned out to be a friend of Andy's father, so he asked the teenagers to go home quickly. And when Maggie returns home, she and her mother have an altercation because in her opinion Maggie has met some not so good friends. And the next day, Erica comes to Sue's vet clinic and asks to have her dog vaccinated, and Sue immediately realizes that is Maggie's mother, to whom she bought alcohol yesterday. That evening Maggie is going to the party again, but this time Erica asks Maggie to call her when to pick her up and the girl agrees. But today when Sue bought a drink, she asked the boys to follow her and pay her back there because she was being followed. But when she turns off the road, the guys already suspect something, but Andy, who went to pick up the liquor, comes back to the guys and says that Sue invites them to hang out in her basement, and after much persuasion Maggie agrees to the venture. In the basement, Sue makes a party rule, no going upstairs, so the whole basement is at their disposal. She takes the keys from Andy so they don't leave until she makes sure Andy is able to drive. And when Sue is about to leave, Daryl suggests that everyone call her Ma. The woman goes upstairs and prepares a snack for the guys and checks Andy's Instagram, which shows pictures of them and Maggie together. Ma then goes down to the guys' basement and Chaz suggests that the woman set up a real party club here, but the woman takes a gun and forces Chaz to strip naked and then admits that he doesn't even work, it was just a simple joke. After the party is over, Sue checks on Andy and gives him the keys. The boys head for the van, and Sue remembers her youth, when the boys also invited her out for a drink at the rec. And in the morning she was going through her old stuff and found a scrapbook, and then managed to find Maggie's Facebook page and her mother's picture there. So she immediately arrived at the casino and watched her from behind the machine while Erica herself met up with former classmate Mercedes and classmate Ben, but the security guard had to kick them out because Mercedes was too drunk. The next day, Maggie's mother goes away on a business trip and asks not to come anyone home, so Maggie keeps her word and turns down the boys after school to have a party at her place. But a box of alcohol that Ma planted under the tire of their car turns up. She sends a video message to Haley's phone inviting her to the party. Maggie wonders how she got their numbers, but the guys think Haley, who usually does this when she's drunk, gave them away. At night the guys arrive at a party where there were already a bunch of people, and Haley talks about the girl who sleeps on the couch, that she always pretends not to drink, because if she is drunk, her father will punish her. The party was very noisy, but Ma steps aside and reminisces again about chatting around the campfire with a guy near the ruins. A little later, the teenagers make her have a drink, but suddenly there is some sort of knocking sound from upstairs. Ma immediately heads upstairs, where she takes a syringe from the refrigerator. And Haley wants to go to the bathroom, but it is occupied by a couple, so she suggests that Maggie go upstairs. Haley goes to the bathroom, but while Maggie is standing next to her, she hears a noise from overhead where Ma is scolding someone, even though she always says she lives alone. Maggie asks her to leave, but Ma catches them and sends them downstairs. So Maggie makes everyone go home right away, and when Ma is left alone she cuts out her pictures. In the morning, Ma texts Maggie a ton of messages apologizing, and at school she tells Haley about it, but she doesn't even remember what happened yesterday. A girl who wants to have a party at Ma's comes up to them, but Maggie notices her beautiful bracelet and then Andy calls her. The boy offers to go out with him and she agrees, but Ma catches up with all the guys outside. She invites everyone to have fun again, but the boys refuse and she surprises the girls with her anger. And Ma herself invites other guys to her party already, but they were not going to hang out at her place, but only insulted her and left, so Ma immediately went into hysterics. Meanwhile, Erica had already returned home and her daughter told her that she now had a boyfriend. The boys decided to come to Stephanie's birthday party before the weekend. Ma watched Andy and Maggie all evening and a little later made the boys drink, but Maggie had to have a second drink for her. And as expected, it didn't do any good. Maggie got sick and woke up at home. Her knees were smashed and she had lost the earrings her mother had given her. So after school she went with Andy to get new earrings and asked her boyfriend not to go to Ma, who in the meantime returned the medicine to the veterinary clinic. And when Maggie decided to make love to Andy, Ma came back to the house, so they had to make it up and get to know each other. Andy told her that his father was Ben and Erica realized that he was her former classmate, who wasn't a bad guy. But at Andy's desk comes a new message from Ma. The girls immediately block her and Haley spreads a video on the internet for everyone to block Ma because she's crazy. And of course Ma herself sees this, which makes her even angrier, and she is thrown back into past memories of meeting her classmate in the darkroom. But we are transferred to Maggie, who gets messages from an unknown number. It turns out Ma, she tells us that she has a new number and asks the guys tomorrow after school to come to the ruins, a matter of her life and death. The guys did come and Ma tells them that she is sick with cancer, so she's been acting terrible lately because of the pills. And she wants to beat this cancer with her friends, but Haley notices a bracelet on her arm that Stephanie got from her boyfriend. And when Ma leaves, she smiles happily because she successfully manipulated the teenagers. Haley tells Maggie about the bracelet, so they decide to follow Ma, and in the car they also remember that they themselves are missing jewelry. So the girls head straight to her house, where they sneak up to the second floor and a little girl walks behind them, but they don't notice that, and find in her house their pictures from hanging out and a picture of Andy with his dad on the back. And Sue just happens to have his father come over and give his cat away for treatment and wants to have a chat with an old friend, so she says she'll change after work and they'll meet at the diner at 6. Once again, her memories from her past come back. But by this point, the girls are met in the house by Ginny in a mask, who scares the hell out of the girls. Maggie doesn't understand how she walks, and Ginny tells her that her mother forbade her to walk because she is sick. Sue is heading home at this time and Ginny asks them to run away and hide. The girls manage to get around Sue and escape from the house. And Ma injects Ginny with new medicine and thinks it's time for her to get a haircut before her hair falls out. She says she only wishes her well and that she will always be safe. Sue herself has already arrived at the appointed time and remembers again how Mercedes was telling her how to pleasure her boyfriend in the pantry, and then Ben comes in and puts the tracking device on the table that he had put in his son's car. He knows that she was in love with him at school and he wasn't paying attention to her, apparently, so she wants revenge on him, so he threatens her that if his son comes to see her again, he will come to deal with her personally. A little later in the clinic she reads how to get rid of the device, but her boss makes her work. Maggie tells Andy what they saw at Ma's house, but the guy thinks she really does have cancer, because before she died his mom was a bit of a weirdo too. And when Maggie comes home, Sue comes over to check on their dog and they pretend not to know each other. And it turns out that years ago in the pantry she made nice not to Ben but to some nerd, after which she was ridiculed and wanted revenge, but then a lucky chance came up. She spotted Mercedes out for a run, so she hit her with her car and went home. And Maggie hears her dog start whining in the night. It turns out to be bleeding and she hears sounds behind her, a girl in pink pants standing in the dark, who then walks away. And at the vet clinic, Sue picks up medication and kills her boss, who was constantly angry at her. And Ben lost track of his son, so he came to Sue and she injected him with drugs, after which he immediately passed out. Maggie's dog got worse, so Mom is going to call Sue, but Maggie tells her that she had her and asks her not to call her. Mom gets mad at her and is going to call Andy's dad, but Maggie asks her not to, because it's not his fault, and then Mom punishes her and locks her in her room. And Ben wakes up tied up on Sue's bed. She wants to get back at him for his high school years and cut off his sex organ, but then changes her mind and runs his own cat's blood through his body and cuts his veins. thereby killing Ben. And Erica finds Sue in the store and asks her not to touch the kids anymore, but Sue says she's jealous and she's still lucky to have dealt with lusty Mercedes and Ben. Erica doesn't know what she means and leaves. And Maggie gets pictures of Sue with Andy on her phone and she thanks her for the earrings, so now Andy is definitely hers. Maggie, under the influence of emotion, leaves the house and arrives at the party when everyone has already left, with only her friends left in the basement, who tell her that Ma has made them a very delicious cocktail. Ma herself goes upstairs and gives her daughter some pills before she goes to bed, making sure she swallows them. And then she closes the basement doors and all of Maggie's friends fall off their feet, so she has no choice but to go upstairs. The door was locked as usual, and from the second floor she hears Jenny pleading for help, but Ben's body was there, and behind her Sue immediately injects her with the drugs that make her pass out. And Maggie's mother calls for her daughter, not yet realizing what has happened. And Maggie watches the picture of Sue getting revenge on Chaz with his perfect skin. The girl who is going to run away, Haley, who has too much tongue, also has to shut up a little. Erica has already discovered her daughter is missing and calls Sue's answering machine asking her to call her back. Suddenly Andy wakes up and confesses his love to Sue. They kiss, but Ma thinks he's a liar and stabs him, and then it's Maggie's turn. But the doorbell rings. It turns out to be a policeman who spots cars and glasses, but she pretends not to know whose cars they are, and there's a rumble in the basement. Sue starts to panic and her daughter appears, which is very timely. So the policeman leaves as he suddenly hears cries for help, but already takes a couple of bullets from Sue, and a loving mother asks her daughter for help. Erica's colleague arrives and they head over to Sue's house. Meanwhile, she makes Maggie take a couple of pictures with her friends, but without her, so now she feels like a loser. And after the pictures, it's time to get rid of her as well, but from upstairs comes the screams of her daughter for help, who immediately slaps her mother in the face and goes downstairs to help the boys, as immediately her parents show up and open the basement door, but Sue grabs her daughter and is about to take her back into the house. Erica starts apologizing to her ex-girlfriend for not stopping the boys when they were bullying her back then. But that's not enough for her, so Maggie grabs a knife and stabs Ma. Then everyone leaves the house and Sue is alive, so she goes upstairs to her lover and burns to death with him. Support the channel by subscribing to the channel, like and enable notifications, because with them you will be the first to know about new videos. Share your opinion about the video in the comments and I'll answer you. Thank you very much for watching, and I always say goodbye.